I the asshole for fake sleeping all night to see if my wife is lying? The past couple of months, my wife has been complaining about our cats. She's been claiming that the cats wake her up constantly and that she's frustrated every night that she has to get up and open the door for the cats. Or the cats keep making noises, or the cats keep jumping on her. It got me to the point where she started saying she wants me to get rid of them. I've told her I've never seen or heard any of this, but she claims I sleep through it all. She kept telling me that she was getting less and less sleep and kept acting aggressive, blaming lack of sleep from the cats and that if I didn't get rid of them, she'd leave me. I legitimately started considering giving the cats to my sister until I noticed something. One morning, she claimed she had gotten up multiple times throughout the night to help the cats. She listed a bunch of times. I thought it was weird because I had been up until 4 a.m. and she claimed that she got up at 1 a.m. to open the door for them and a few times around 3 a.m. because they were meowing and jumping on her. I was in the bedroom the entire time while she slept, and I know none of this happened. Things weren't adding up, so I decided to run a test. I waited until she said she was going to bed, then I let the cats out of our bedroom. I lowered my phone brightness and faked going to sleep. I just laid there in my bed for the entire night bored, but I definitely did not fall asleep. I made sure to make timestamps every 30 minutes on my phone through Discord just to be sure. I marked down every noise my cats made. One cat had jumped down from something and made a little noise around 3:18 a.m. and one ate food relatively quietly by the bedroom door at 4:57 a.m. Other than that, nothing happened. Sure enough, my wife slept from 11 p.m. until 9 a.m. and that morning she claimed she had woken up at least 7 times to open doors from the cat noises and cats jumping on her. At this point, I was pissed because she was clearly lying to me. I was exhausted and fed up with the lies, so I bluntly called her out on it. I told her, that's funny, I stayed up all night to monitor the cats and they weren't even in the room at all last night. I have timestamps and everything, so you've been lying to me and trying to convince me to get rid of my cats? Why? She just sat there quietly shaking and looking pissed, then got up and left without answering. She came back hours later and ignored me whenever I talked, and when I asked her how I'm the bad guy in the situation, she finally said that I was treating her like a child by lying about sleeping and staying up all night just to see if she was lying or not. And that making timestamps and everything as if I was an investigator was going too far and makes me an obsessive asshole. I did it because she was threatening to make me get rid of the cats or she'd leave me, and her claims didn't add up. So am I the obsessive asshole here? Date, my wife has been Baker acted. She did not hurt herself, just said something concerning in public. I got a call from the hospital this morning asking me to head over to some family therapy. Apparently she finally wanted to talk. I'll be honest, I'm pretty pissed at the reason why she's been so hateful towards my cats. It's absolutely insane. It's nothing that anyone has suggested. She's not cheating, she's not sick physically or mentally, she's not bored of the relationship or looking for an out. According to her, one of the cats stepped on her laptop and ruined a story she was writing. She's hated both cats ever since. I mean, that sucks, but it's not worth trying to emotionally blackmail me into getting rid of them. I asked her why she didn't just tell me the truth and why she'd been lying and refused to talk about it when I asked. Her answer was, because you wouldn't have gotten rid of them otherwise, and explained that when she saw I wasn't willing to abandon them for her, she took offense and made it a goal to have me pick her over them. Sickening. Don't know why she actually admitted to it all. The woman with us asked me how I felt about all of it, and I just told the truth. I told her it was a nice run, but I'm probably going to want a divorce. I was asked why, and I told them. I see a new hateful, malicious side of her that I want nothing to do with. She was so set on getting rid of the cats over a fanfiction being ruined that she manipulated her husband. My wife started shouting at me that I betrayed her and that I'm a scum for choosing animals over her. At least cats don't give ultimatums like she gave. It sucks that she's been Baker acted and all, I guess, but it's for the best right now. She'll have time to process it in a safe environment and hopefully come to terms with it. Bad husband, I know. I'm almost sure I'm going for divorce. I'm very worried about having her in the same house as my cats. I want my cats safe and I don't want to worry about them being harmed or disappearing. Screw that. I'll guess I'll do what almost all of you suggested. Keep the cats, rehome the wife. Not how I wanted it to end, but life isn't always nice.
My girlfriend, 30 female, overheard my 35 male family talking badly about her. Last week, I went to my parents' house for dinner. We get together as a family a few times a month. It's been a tradition with us for years now. Sammy usually joins us for these dinners, but had work obligations. Halfway through dinner, I got up to go to the bathroom, and Sammy texted me that she was outside. She got off work early and came over to hang out. She would have normally walked in, which is normal, but she needed help bringing in some gifts. My brother and sister, twins, have their birthday next week, and my girlfriend had gifts for them. At this point, my family had no idea Sammy was there. We walked inside and headed to the kitchen, and we overheard my family talking. My sister was saying that she was glad my girlfriend was gone because she couldn't stand a family night being ruined by my girlfriend being annoying. My brother and other sister agreed about how annoying and awful my girlfriend is. My dad made a comment about how they should be nice to Sammy, and my mom chimed in with, Sammy is nice and all, but I can't believe family sucks throwaway likes how fat she is. He can do so much better.
Wow.
My family, even my dad, agreed, and my sister piped up that I was dating down because I'm still rebounding from my last girlfriend, which was 5 years ago.
Okay.
I was floored. My family has always been so nice to Sammy, and I've never heard them talk badly about her. I've never heard my family say mean things about anyone, to be honest. Sammy walked into the kitchen and dumped the presents on the counter. She was crying and mumbled something about happy birthday and then took off out the door. My family looked shocked and a bit embarrassed. I asked my family what the fuck was wrong with them and didn't stick around for an answer. I went after Sammy. She was in her car crying. Now, Sammy is usually tough, but family is super important to her. She has no family, aside from an alcoholic dad that she doesn't have any contact with. My family was like her surrogate family and something she always wanted. She was overjoyed when my family welcomed her and invited her to family events. I have no idea what they mean about her being annoying. The thing that makes this even worse is I was planning on proposing to her in the next few months. Now, Sammy hasn't said much about it and hasn't talked to me about this incident. She has always wanted a family, and she doesn't understand why my family doesn't like her or what she's done wrong. I don't want to lose her over this. I would take her over my family. At this point, I have no idea if I even want them in my life. All of them have reached out to me with weak apologies full of justifications. I asked my mom if she had apologized to Sammy, and my mom said I could pass on the apology. What do? I don't want to get rid of my family, but Sammy matters more to me at this point. I want Sammy to know I'm fully in her corner and don't want her to feel guilty if I have to cut out my family.
Am I the a-hole for being upset with my son for finding a job without telling me? My son is 18. He is going to be attending community college and is living with me, my husband, and his two younger half-sisters. The other day, I found out that he found and accepted a job without telling me. I was upset with him about it. And the reason for that is that, first of all, he should have told me since we live in the same house. And also, and more importantly, now I'm left without someone to stay with the girls from 3 to 8, where my shift starts and ends. My son is usually the one to stay home with the girls, and his new job is during these hours, so one way or another we are impacted. He told me his friend found him this job and it just happened, but I don't think it did because he knew he had to give up staying with his sisters while at work. My husband travels most of the time, he's a pilot, and paid childcare is a no for me. My son said I shouldn't be surprised by him trying to work to save money to be able to pay for himself. But that is just absurd since he literally lives with us without having to pay for anything, except for his own entertainment. He said he needed a job, and he wasn't realistically going to stay and watch his sisters for days on end, especially if he doesn't get paid for it. We kept arguing and my husband got involved, and he too was upset saying that my son had no respect for us. My son basically had a like-it-or-not attitude with us and kept refusing to discuss this with us, saying we have no right to be upset with him and should just accept it. But I think that is being inconsiderate of my husband's and I struggle to provide for the family as a whole. This should mean something to him, but he acted selfishly. Edited to add, okay, it seems that I did not mention the reason why the babysitter option isn't ideal. It is because my daughters don't want a babysitter. They're both dealing with some issues and are uncomfortable being with a stranger at home. Besides that, my son decided to stay with him, and we didn't ask him or anything. Okay, some of you here are implying or suggesting that I'm making my son to be the girl's babysitter, but that is in fact not true. He doesn't do much for them, just stays home with them while he studies or plays video games. He adores his sisters and only stays with them when he wants to. Otherwise, we wouldn't force him. Also, my husband said girls are too young for therapy, and I agree with him on that. Am I the a-hole for disrespecting my husband's wishes and refusing to let my kids call him dad? I, female 35, lost my late husband years ago, and I have 2 kids with him, 5 and 7. The kids struggled a lot from this tremendous loss, but they were lucky to meet my now husband and their stepdad, Adam. Adam and I got married several months ago. He, without a doubt, loves my kids as his own. It even gave them adorable nicknames, and they did the same to him. They have several cute nicknames for him, which is what they usually call him by. But for the past couple of weeks, I started hearing first one of the kids call him daddy, then both of them calling him daddy. To be frank, I felt uncomfortable with it and didn't think it was the right thing to do. I don't want the kids to be confused and accidentally replace their biological dad, and Adam said he understood that. In fact, he said no pressure, but the kids decided to call him daddy and he couldn't bring himself to correct them. I asked to try to do that and set limits so this won't go out of hand. Well, yesterday it happened again right before my eyes. One of the kids called Adam daddy, and Adam didn't correct him or say anything. I got upset and couldn't help it. I waited till the kids were in the other room and started arguing with Adam about it. He acted confused and he said he couldn't do it, then tried to convince me to let it go as long as the kids are happy. I told him he doesn't get it because I'm trying to keep their deceased father's presence and title in their life, and as hard as it is now adding this confusion that comes with calling Adam daddy. He said I was being irrational and that he's done nothing wrong, but I disagreed because we already had this conversation. Besides that, he was more than thrilled with the kids calling him cute nicknames, so why would he suddenly not want that now? I told him I'd handle this myself from now on out. Apparently, I pissed him off because he mumbled that I was being a bit much, then went upstairs. He's claiming that I'm disrespecting his wishes and keeping him at arm's length when it comes to his relationship with the kids, but all I ask for is time. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my daughter's friend to sleep over because her mother didn't teach her boundaries? The title is quite confusing, but I can't figure out a better way to word it, so I'm just gonna do my best to explain. My 36 female daughter 6 female has a friend 6 female, whose mother I have frequently had issues with. Mom B, 30s female, and her husband male 30s, are what's yours is mine people and have taught their daughter that mindset. My daughter has a very fragile teddy that her granny gifted her when she was christened. I've mended this teddy 100 times, but it's still falling apart because my daughter carries it literally everywhere. She's super gentle with it. It has come up with her own rules that you have to follow to hold and play with the teddy. My daughter asked to have a play date / sleepover with her friend a few months ago. After talking to her parents, I agreed. Turns out the girls fought like cats and dogs over her teddy because the friend didn't want to follow the rules and didn't understand that if she can't follow them, she can't play. The friend threw my daughter's teddy and she called to come home early. Next day, I guess they sorted it and were friends once again. My daughter does not play with a teddy at school. She just puts him in her backpack, as far as I know, because she's scared other kids will hurt Teddy, and I'm pretty sure this is the only reason they're still friends. The girls have wanted to have sleepovers multiple times since, but after talking to her friend's mother and being told that if my daughter brings her Teddy into Mom B's house, then Mom B's rules go, and my daughter will have to share whether her friend isn't careful or not. I've denied it. She suggested they sleep over at my house, but I've seen how her daughter acts at school / on a playground, picking up toys that aren't hers and just running off, fighting with other kids over their toys, etc. And I just don't think she would play with said Teddy properly even under my roof. Am I the a-hole for this? I've talked to other parents in her class who had the same problem and just hid a toy, but I don't think my daughter should have to go without a Teddy all night for someone else's behavior.
My 44 male wife, 41 female, was recently contacted by her ex-boyfriend / co-writer, 36 male, and I've grown a bit nervous. Hello everyone, let me first start by saying that my wife and I are very open, maybe way too open about our past and past partners and all that. She is my second wife. My first wife was big on fidelity and we broke up over her cheating. The first wife and I share a son. My wife also has a daughter of her own from a previous marriage. We've been married for 5 years and our little blended family works well together. As I mentioned earlier, we are perhaps too open about our past relationships. Her first husband was a serial cheater. He was a musician and slept around with women from his gigs. She stumbled onto his emails only to learn that he was involved with 5 other women, one of which he'd gotten pregnant. Not wanting their child to grow up in a broken home, she wanted to save the relationship and reached out to one of her old internet friends for advice. We'll call him Chris. The two had been friends for 7 years up until that point but had never met. They were writing partners. In fact, before they lost contact, they'd been writing a novel together. She tells me that when she reached out for support, he was very kind and had actually been recommending a lot of ways to get past infidelity or what you should speak to an attorney about. In general, being a good friend. Somewhere in that, they decided to revisit writing their book again. According to her, they would casually flirt, but as they lived on opposite sides of the country, they had no means to act. In all this, she decided her marriage was dead and stopped trying to fix things. Checked out, I guess. She and Chris expressed mutual attraction, and by the end of the year, he flew out to meet her. She filed for divorce right after the affair got physical, and Chris moved later that year to be with her. To make a long story short, her daughter, who was only 5 at the time, didn't really take to him. As she says, he didn't do anything wrong, she just wasn't adjusting properly after the divorce and didn't like somebody replacing her father. My wife told him they needed to take a break due to this and due to the fact that he's a bit crass sometimes. She had only intended for it to be a short break, but he was apparently so hurt that he'd moved that far to be turned away 2 months in, and so he broke it off entirely. After months had gone by, they reconnected to try and finish their book. They began sleeping together again during this time, but it was just a physical thing. They came close to finishing the book, but she started dating me. Thus, they stopped sleeping together. She felt weird about having an ex hanging around once she got into a committed relationship, and so by her own admission, she stopped returning his emails, which were all book related, with the same frequency, and stopped working on it on her end so much. He grew frustrated after a few months of this and blocked her on everything. Which finally brings us to a month ago. After 4 or 5 years of no contact, he messages her out of the blue. He contracted COVID and nearly died. Chris contacted her because apparently in that time apart he rewrote the book without her contributions, managed to get published, wrote and published a sequel, and released his work came really close to not being finished if he died. He wanted to make it known that if something should happen to him, that he wanted the rights of this thing turned over to her, as she knows how it will end and helped create the story. Fair enough, that actually sounds nice. But then, they get to talking. He's apparently writing a comic adaptation, and he invited her to come on board for it. He has a lot of the art done, and she was very excited showing me and explaining to me who all the characters were, their backstories, what she thinks he got wrong in the design. She also read the first book and is telling me which names he changed, what characters were and weren't in their version, the plot differences, and she seems to be having a lot of fun with it. I knew they wrote together. She mentioned it before, but I had no idea they had this whole universe created. I can tell it was something that was really important to her. She seems like she might take him up on the offer, and this worries me. Every time they've worked on something in the past, it leads to sex, and there is a bit of sexual content in their writing. I'm not the jealous type, and I certainly don't want to step on a dream she had buried, but I don't want a repeat of history. I'll admit, I decided to snoop their conversation, and while he seems like he's been on the level and is only really discussing the project, she's pressing for information on his personal life. I wouldn't say in a flirty way, but she asked him if he's seeing anyone now, and when he answered no, he's too busy, that relationship's just getting in the way, she told him he needs to get back out there, that celibacy isn't a good look on him. We're pretty open on our past sex life, so I know her ex-husband was terrible at it, and once when drunk, she said of Chris, "Don't let a great fuck convince you it'd be a great relationship." How the hell do I proceed? I know she was emotionally broken by her ex-husband, and that's why she cheated, but she did cheat with this man. I've met him, he seems like an on-the-level guy, but they have a history that tells something might happen. I want to approach my wife with my concerns, but I don't want to seem like an overbearing, controlling person. I want her to have a creative outlet because she glows in a way I've never seen before when she talks about this book I barely knew anything about. It feels like it's something that was deeply important to her, that she forced not to be important. I want that for her, but I don't want their interactions to escalate into something more like they have 3 times already. Part 2 comes 7 days or so later and was posted on a different subreddit, so it started off with saying a few people suggested I post this here as well. My wife's ex-boyfriend re-emerged in her life asking to work on a mutual writing project that she abandoned years ago that he's achieving financial success with now. I don't know who this woman is. The level of deception is so involved and deliberate that I'm hardly capable of comprehending that I've spent the last 6 years of my life with this person. I decided to sit down with her and talk about how I felt about the situation, that I was happy she rediscovered her old writing and expressed that it would be cool for her to explore that as a hobby or a profession, as she's quite good at it and clearly enjoys it. At the time she agreed and said that Chris, her ex, being around wouldn't be a good thing, saying she was worried that he might be using this as a ploy to talk with her again. When she said these things, I was like, okay, cool, she has the same misgivings I do, and she's not minimizing my feelings or calling me controlling. In fact, we're on the same page. Oh, how wrong I was. That conversation should have been the end of it, but for some reason my brain started getting weird and I began thinking it was going too well. Yesterday morning, when she got in the shower, I took her phone and went into it. His number was there and their entire conversation had been deleted. It hadn't been 3 days prior. Red flags. Checked Facebook Messenger, she's talking about her upcoming trip for work, which takes her to Vegas. Well, apparently, this 2-day-long thing has been cancelled due to COVID, but she's been telling me she's going. They are discussing a hotel a town over and staying there, as well as sending each other people's vacation photos of Vegas, so she has stuff to show if I ask. She's talking about restaurants they can go to, how there will be a full moon when he's there, and how it would look great on the beach. Oh yeah, and he's not on the East Coast as he's presented. He moved back to town recently since the prick actually has enough money to live here. He showed her on Google Maps where he's living and it's taken everything I have not to drive my truck straight into his living room. A month ago she claimed that she had to pick up her brother from the airport. Nope, that was him. The messages don't go back much further than that, but they reference talking about stuff during the years they supposedly haven't had contact. One line I read that he wrote has my heart racing with such fucking madness is from him, and says, "Yeah, we're just friends. I don't see you in 8 years and I'm inside you 20 minutes off the plane. Best friends maybe." So, she's not just planning to fuck him, she's been doing it for months. That trip to her mother's a few weeks back, where she stayed the night? Yeah. I haven't confronted her yet, but her smile fills me with so much hate now. I'm going to try my best and hold back on saying anything until after Christmas. The kids don't need the holiday being a constant reminder of this, but honestly, I'm probably going to snap and confront her today or tomorrow because my ability to swallow this bullshit with a smile is almost impossible. Honestly, I'd be lucky if I can avoid taking a bath with a toaster. I'm losing my mind right now.
Am I the a-hole for not wanting to celebrate my mom on my birthday? I have 3 siblings between the ages of 10 and 18. I'm the oldest, 4th at 25. Every year on every single one of our birthdays, we're expected to celebrate my mom as well. We've done it since we were little. It was taught to me as giving thanks for caring plus giving birth to us, which I'm all for. I'm grateful as we wouldn't be here without her. The issue is, though, it becomes less of our birthday and more so an anniversary for the day our mom gave birth. Every year on our birthday, our mom gets gifts too. As we got older, we're now expected to get her monetary gifts, and not cards or homemade stuff. Just recently was my birthday and I was gifted some much needed clothes and dishware for my new apartment. My dad, however, got my mom a new MacBook. My siblings all got her gifts too. My youngest brother isn't expected to give much, but my 16-year-old sister and 18-year-old second brother work, so they're expected to give gifts too. My sister pulled me aside before my birthday and said she was sorry she couldn't get me much. She got me a sweater, I love it, and that she wanted to get me more, but our mom was pressuring her to get a certain necklace for our mom. Apparently, my mom had been dropping hints for months, and my sister was worried our mom would be upset and feel underappreciated if she didn't get it. I asked how much it was, and my sister said it was $300. I honestly lost it on our mom, and chewed into her later that afternoon when my mom opened her gifts after me. I think she's ridiculous for even wanting my sister to spend so much on a gift. Mom started crying and my dad kicked me out. Mom won't answer calls, but my aunt, mom's sister, called and said I was a POS for not respecting my mother, and that I'm a selfish, narcissist child for being jealous of the gifts mom got. I thought I was in the right, but now I don't know. It's been over 2 weeks and mom won't answer my calls. She's been posting on Facebook inspiration quotes about letting go of toxicity in your life, how blood doesn't equal family, and how hard it is to be a mother. Several family members, and grandma, uncle, and 2 of my cousins are replying to the posts and are very obviously directing vague comments at me about being a horrible daughter. I don't know what to think now because of how many people are on her side.
When I was in high school, bringing weapons to school was like considered a big no-no. Like, I'm gonna be honest, kids still ended up bringing weapons to school, but in my head, I straight up thought that they were just flat out dumb. Like, I'm sorry, if you're gonna bring a weapon to school, you might as well just sharpen your pencil and act like it's like the purge. Cause like, I'm sorry, like what? Anyways, I remember one time in high school, I was just kind of walking around and I remember entering my social studies class. And in my social studies class, we got this new girl who came in and she was like from like some foreign country. And I remember I sat beside her and I was just introducing myself. You know, I'm being a nice guy because I was kind of outgoing. Like, I didn't look that bad. So I remember introducing myself, being a nice guy, all that cool stuff. And then, you know, I realized that her accent was like very heavy. Like, it was like the average Russian accent, like nothing like Arnold Schwarzenegger worth, but like it was pretty rough. And I was just being nice to her, you know, introducing myself, all that stuff. And she told me that her and her boyfriend came from like a foreign country whatsoever. And then as class went over, I remember walking down the hallway. And as I was walking down the hallway, I saw the same girl, but she was like with her boyfriend and she was like pointing me out. And her boyfriend was like, I'm gonna be honest, her boyfriend looked like a total dumbass. like I can't be mean, but like he did. Like, man couldn't pull his pants up. Honestly, like I want to give him a belt, but okay, I'm talking way too high and mighty for this. Okay, anyways, like I was saying though. So I remember he walked up to me and he literally just, you know, walked over, or waddled over, I should say. I'm sorry, I can make fun of this guy like 2 ways till Friday. And when he walked up to me, he was like, yo, you hitting on my girl? I should have looked at him. I was like, sorry. Like, he had the accent too, but he made sound effects with like his voice as he was talking. Like, I don't know if he was talking third person or something, or he, you know, he's like a beatboxer, but basically he said something like this. Skitty beat bop, bop, you know what I'm saying, dog? Like, you trying to like be with my girl, you know what I'm saying? You hit my girl and stuff like that. You just bop, bop, bop. And in my head, I'm thinking like, wait, did this guy just speak English to me? Dude, I was dead confused because I'm gonna be honest, I only spoke normal English at the time. So I remember saying like, no, like I'm not hitting up your girl. Like I'm not interested whatsoever. I just saw her in my class and she was new. I thought I should just say hi to her. And apparently that's like a big red flag for these guys that have like, you know, girlfriends. Cause I guess no guy wants to feel like they're not enough, which is fair enough. I can't argue with that. Basically, he was like arguing and yelling with me in this most weirdest language. I can't even say it was English, guys. But basically, from what I heard him say, he wanted to fight me. And the way he described us fighting was the most weirdest way possible. He straight up told me, yo, I'm gonna pop your head off with my gun. You know what I'm saying? Go and go get you down, boy. You know what I'm saying? So don't even try hitting up my girl. I'm gonna scrap you right now after school. You know what? After school right now, we're gonna scrap. Me and you, we're gonna scrap, pull up AKs. You know what I'm saying? And me sitting there just thinking, what the heck did this guy just say? Literally just blew my mind. But at the same time though, yeah, no, basically he wanted to fight. So I remember I ended up walking away, and knowing I had a fight after school because of some foreign girl I just met kind of just blew my mind. Like I remember walking up to my friends that I guess were kind of my friends at the time and saying how like this guy wanted to fight me. And apparently everyone knew him already because he apparently got caught carrying a knife to school. And the fact that I was just in a conversation with this guy and the fact that he wanted to bring a gun and shoot an AK in my head to go pop kind of scared the life out of me. By the way, I do not condone any violence in the storyline. I should probably say that first. Anyways, yeah, so basically this guy wanted to fight me. He wanted to scrap me. I told my friends about it and he was caught with a knife earlier today. So that's already a red flag for me. Me knowing I'm probably gonna die in this situation, I was actually kind of worried. Like, you know that panic that you get in your chest when like something's about to go down? That was kind of me. But at the same time though, I did not want to be a wuss and I wanted to actually, you know, man up because, you know, I was at that stage where I needed to, I guess. So I remember I messaged my dad. Okay, that's kind of awkward to say, but I messaged my dad saying, hey, dad, this guy wants to fight me and he might kill me. Instantly when my dad saw he wanted to kill me in the text messages, he literally drove down to the school and he messaged me saying, yo, I'm here at the school. If you need me, I got you. So I already had my dad like kind of like, you know, just on standby, I guess. I don't know. I made this seem like a whole operation when it was literally just about a guy who can't pull up their pants. Like I made this way too severe. So after school, I remember I straight up started walking towards the field because that's where he wanted to meet, I guess. And straight up, I remember seeing this guy with his girl and like 4 other guys just kind of standing there like as if they're like in a V shape, kind of like birds do when they're flying away to like south for the winter. Boy, I wish these guys were flying south for the winter. And they straight up like kind of just walked up there and me sitting there with like my backpack acting like, you know, I was like 7 and I'm like, so what's up? When I walked up there and the guy straight up walked up to me, he's like, yo, I'm gonna pop your head off. He literally pushed me on the ground and I fell. And you know, at that point I was like kind of worried. And then I remember this guy actually did end up pulling out his knife. That's right. So basically I was on the ground, the guy had a knife out, and then instantly right as this guy had his knife out, cops were called apparently, and I heard sirens. Straight up, when I heard sirens, these guys, like all of them ran away except the one guy that was literally standing there with a knife. And I remember his girlfriend just yelling at him saying to like run away or something, as if, you know, they were like doing something illegal, which I guess he technically was. And I remember a cop pulled up, he literally parked his car, instantly ran out of the vehicle and literally ran and tackled this guy to the ground. So me laying down on the ground, at that point I was just kind of laying there looking up at the sky saying like, damn, this is a lot going on in one moment. Basically, he got knocked down, he got his handcuffs on, and he got straight to the vehicle. And the cop was asking me what the heck happened, like what did I do? Basically, he was thinking like I did something really bad. I remember just straight up telling him like I said hi to his girlfriend and he didn't like that, so he pulled a knife on me. That's all I really said, because that's basically what happened. I couldn't like justify it anymore. And then my father came out of the vehicle, he saw what was going on, and he straight up, you know, just told the cop like how this guy like basically, you know, doing his fatherly figure stuff, which thank you, dad, by the way, for that. And yeah, that's basically it. After that, the kid never actually ended up showing up to school again. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he's rotting in jail now. But moral of the story is don't bring weapons to school. It's just not a smart thing. And before anyone says anything, like if you're one of those kids that are thinking, you know, gang life is everything, I'm sorry. I just cannot wait till the real world hits you, because it's gonna hit you hard.
Am I the a-hole for keeping my son from my mother-in-law after she tried to force a paternity test? Some background. Me, 28 female, and my fiancé, 34 male, have a blended family. He has 2 daughters from his previous marriage, ages 9 and 7, and I have a son from a past relationship, aged 6. Shortly after the birth of a second daughter, my fiancé had a vasectomy. He and I also have a 5-month-old baby boy. His conception came as a shock to us both, and my fiancé had a sperm count done, while low, he had some viable ones. We love our son, and I couldn't imagine life without him. But my fiancé's mom has made life hell. When she found out I was pregnant, she tried to convince him I cheated and said he shouldn't live with me until after the birth, and he should get a paternity test. She did her own research and said it was too unlikely that we'd conceive after a vasectomy, and a more obvious choice was that I was unfaithful. My fiancé shot this down, but mother-in-law said she refused to acknowledge our son until we get a test. I said, fine, he doesn't need you. She didn't come to our shower, the hospital for the birth, or even send a card. We haven't got the test done and don't plan to. Our son looks just like his dad when he was a baby. My mother-in-law caught wind that my parents have visited the baby recently. They live across the country and can't visit often because COVID, and is furious. She suddenly wants to be an involved grandma, and that I'm keeping her from her only grandson, and that most women would kill to have involved grandparents. I told her she needs to apologize and I need time to forgive, but just give a non-apology saying she was just trying to protect her son, and I'd do the same if I were in her shoes. No sorry, no baby. Fiancé is getting uncomfortable with our fighting and picking sides. He is with me that she's been unacceptable, but says she'll never really apologize and I need to compromise, or this will never end. I've heard from other people that I need to be the bigger person. I'm honestly tired of the arguments too, but I can't forgive her accusations so easily. Half of his family thinks I'm a catty cheater because of her. You asked me out. Am I the a-hole for refusing this holiday and choosing one of my friends at the same time instead? If the money thing wasn't there, I would probably have chosen this family holiday. But I just feel like my frugal decisions are now being punished, and this is unfair. I'm not angling for my parents to pay for me too, and I also feel bad kind of suggesting, indirectly, my sister pay for hers, but I still feel really hard done by, and that my sister is being cuddled, and the fact that she spends quite a lot on a day-to-day basis, much more than me, is being rewarded. My parents and sister think I'm being money hungry, and not fair compassionate to my sister's unlucky love life and underpaid profession. This is stopping us from going on vacation, all four of us, which is upsetting my parents. Am I the a-hole? Edit. People keep accusing me of judging my sister's spending. I'm not judging it at all. I think it's great she goes out and has a good time. We're just different. But at the end of the day, I'm still being asked to spend more than her on the same things. It makes my sacrifices not feel worth it. It's more a comment on the saving I do to be able to afford this holiday, rather than exactly what she/isn't doing in order to not afford it. Am I the a-hole for telling my cousin and her husband they should consider stopping their IVF treatment? My female 28 female cousin Lauren, female 35, and her husband have been struggling with having kids and are suffering from health issues. They've begun IVF treatment, which is expensive where I live. So far, they've had several rounds, but no luck. They visited on my mom's birthday yesterday. We don't see each other much now, but mom tells me about how they're doing in general. We were conversing at dinner and the IVF got brought up. Lauren said she and her husband are about to undergo another round of IVF. Everyone at a table said a prayer and wished them luck. But I told Lauren that after spending this much money, and after having already gone through several rounds in addition to other factors contributing to their infertility issues, she should really consider stopping IVF and taking a break and also saving money. Lauren and her husband looked offended. Lauren then said that they aren't struggling with money, so it's okay. I explained that they may not be struggling now but will be in the future, saying they'd spent thousands and wasted money for no benefits while they could have financially helped some struggling family with kids. Lauren got quiet, but I stated that this was just my opinion after all. Lauren's husband looked at me grudgingly and said, "I think you should just mind your own business and keep your opinion to yourself." From there, the argument ensued. I told him he was being disrespectful, and he kept talking back. Shortly after, he and Lauren left. Mom started asking me why I caused a scene on her birthday. I said we were just talking, but Lauren and her husband blew this way out of proportion. Mom said that I have zero say in anyone's reproductive choice and should have kept my mouth shut. My sister, who rarely agrees with me, sided with me saying I was good, but Mom is insisting I call Lauren and apologize to her. My husband too sided with me and told me to give it a few days and Lauren will call. I see Lauren as my sister and I respect her, but we have our moments. Am I the a-hole in this situation?
This story starts off with me back in actually elementary school. This is my grade 5 year. Honestly, bro, like being in grade 5, I guess, you know, you learn a lot of things and at the same time you don't. Like I know back in grade 5 for me, like my main focus was playing Pokemon on my DS and at the same time kind of just sitting at home playing on my PlayStation 2. I don't know how many people had PlayStation 2s back then, but I know I did. And even though I was a total gamer champ, like I'm not gonna lie, one of my main like strengths back then to picking up the ladies was, well, my speed. If you guys don't know, being the fastest kid in elementary school was actually a popular thing to do. I don't know if it is still nowadays, but at the same time things change. Anyways, like I was saying though, so back in elementary school, grade 5 year, grade 5 was like a really special time for me. Now you guys are probably asking like why, like, you know, like is it because you're transitioning to middle school? No. You see, the reason my grade 5 year was so cool was because our grade 5 classes back in my elementary school gave us laptops. And back then I didn't own a laptop when I was in grade 5. I wasn't allowed to be honest. I was only allowed to have consoles. I didn't get my first PC until I was like, what, maybe like 15. So knowing I was gonna get a laptop, just a miniature, like, you know, old Dell laptop that they were handing to us to use was awesome. Knowing I get to carry that everywhere with me for my whole grade 5 year was awesome. And we didn't have to give it back at all. Like we could actually take these laptops home and do homework with them. And I remember me, 2 of my friends, and 1 kid in our class that was really, really sketchy were really, really happy about these laptops. Like I'm not even joking. I think it got to a point where we ended up playing Club Penguin together in class while we were in math. And the reason was, by the way, for us having the laptops, I should probably mention, was because they wanted our typing skills to evolve over time over the years, which thank God, you know, if I didn't have that computer back then, I guess I wouldn't be typing 80 words per minute nowadays. Anyways, like I was saying though, so you guys are probably wondering, wait, so when does the Devil's Hub come into this story? Well, you see, it all starts off one day in my grade 5 class. So if you guys don't know, like I said earlier, we had a sketchy kid in our class, and this kid was the most, how do I put this? Rebellious kid in the class, I want to say. Rebellious, is that the proper word for it? Well, he was rebellious, and he was really, how would I word this again? Just a bad kid in general. Like just think of like Horrid Henry from that old cartoon back then and picture him nowadays. That's basically it. And basically with these laptops, I remember he would always like, you know, do some really sketchy things. Like for example, he would search up really like gory things, like for example, someone getting shot, or just, you know, just some crazy stuff that, let's just say, an average kid shouldn't look at. And I remember, you know, I tried to like stay away from him, but knowing he sat right beside me in class was not easy, because I think nowadays, you know, having a screen right in front of you, you're just always tempted to look at it even when you don't want to. But anyways, like I said, one day I remember while we were in class, the sketchy kid leans over towards me and says to me, and I'm not even joking, he says, yo, you want to see something cool, bro? Now at first I thought it was gonna be something like, you know, I don't know, a person jumping off a plane or something without a parachute. But then he goes on the internet and searches up the Devil's Hub. And at first I was really confused because, you know, when he searched it up, I just saw a bunch of naked things on the screen and I was freaking out. Like I had no idea what was going on. But then he started clicking on this video and like all I saw was literally, you know, the Devil's Tango on the screen over and over again. And he was looking at me. He's like, yo, bro. I'm like, what? He's like, this is how life is made. And then after that, he's telling me like all these things, like how, you know, his parents, you know, divorced and stuff. And this kid gave me his life story about how he had 2 moms, which is, I guess, cool in a way. I don't know. I love my mom. But anyways, yeah, so apparently this kid, you know, was freaking out and stuff about, you know, having literally the Devil's Tango on his screen at school in our grade 5 classroom. And then I remember for some reason, this kid decides to like unplug his headphones from the computer. And I'm not even joking when I say this. Literally, everyone in the background heard moaning noises over and over from the video. Now, for some reason, some kids were laughing, but let's just say my teacher in that classroom stood up and walked over to the computer. And luckily it was on his computer, so I really don't care. Like it was on his computer. I knew I wasn't gonna get in trouble. But I guess apparently the teacher's like, Bubba, sketchy kid, why are you guys both looking at the Devil's Hub? In my mind, I was freaking out. I was like, why is he asking me why I was on it when it's not even on my computer? But then this kid decides to just say, oh, it's for educational purposes. Literally, I have 2 moms, bro. Like I wanted to see what was going on. And then from there on out, I was just literally just like confused as hell because I had no idea what was going on. Like honestly, bro, like it just felt bad. But then after that, I got sent to the office with this kid because apparently I was a part of it since I was watching it with him, which is weird to say because, you know, us being 2 grade 5s watching the Devil's Hub on the screen. You know what? Actually, I don't really want to talk about it. That's just weird anyway. So we go down to the office and we sit down with our principal, and our principal is asking us questions like, you know, why'd you search this up? What's going on? You know, like, what are you doing? And I remember just sitting there in the principal's office, really confused on why I was sitting here. Like, I was not even a part of it. I should have been just upstairs watching Sky does Minecraft. Like, why am I in this situation? And then this kid beside me, the really sketchy kid, decides to pull something out of his butt and said, oh, like, I was teaching Baba, like, all the cool stuff my parents taught me when I was younger. So yeah, basically this kid with 2 moms that's, you know, totally sketchy decides to throw me under the bus saying I wanted him to search up the Devil's Hub. And, you know, me just sitting there freaking out, you know, my parents had to come down. We had to talk about, you know, cybersecurity security and all this stuff, and, you know, being appropriate on the internet. And of course, my parents were upset with me because, you know, while I was in grade 5, the only thing I should be really watching on the internet is Minecraft videos. But anyways, I had a big talking with my parents and I got put on history control. If you guys don't know what history control is, basically it's when, like, you know, every day when you go into class, you have to go through your, you know, your browse history with a teacher and make sure you didn't search up anything inappropriate, as if, you know, I didn't know already how to turn off a history control. But yeah, honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. I guess, you know, it is what it is, and that's how, you know, I guess my first time finding out what the Devil's Hub was there.
Had to leave, I just couldn't bear to stay. Nothing's back in its place for me anyway. I wanna see what's hiding across the sea. If there is something out there for me. Take a train, ride a cab, catch a flight. Travel daytime into the night. All alone, grab a backpack and light. That's what life should be all about. Go to Paris, London, Amsterdam, New York, Miami. Got a plan. See Stockholm, travel through your path. Go to Sydney, Bombay, Singapore, Berlin and St. Kitts, that's for sure. Every city I'll make it through them all. I'm a globetrotter.
Story time about how my neighbor is stealing my packages, stalking me, but denies everything. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I moved into a really nice apartment 3 weeks ago. It's a 1-bedroom apartment and the building has a bunch of amenities. There's even a doorman in the lobby. I felt super safe when I moved in, but 2 days after I moved in, weird things started happening. I'm lucky enough to make content for a living, which means I get sent a lot of packages to my apartment. On the second day that I moved in, my friends were over and helping me unpack everything. Suddenly, we noticed that my front door was open and 2 of my packages were missing. I locked the door and could have sworn that I had left the packages right there. I looked for them everywhere and couldn't find them. Later that night, after my friends went home, someone rang on my doorbell, but when I opened the door, no one was there. It happened a second and third time. Finally, I went online and ordered the Ring doorbell. I finally installed it, and you wouldn't imagine the things I caught on camera. 2 in the morning the following day, I see a strange man ring my doorbell and run away. This guy was in his early 30s, wearing a black hoodie, black pants, and he had a tattoo on his pinky finger. Couldn't really see his face though. When I saw the footage the next morning, I was really scared. I took it downstairs and I showed the guy at the lobby. He told me that it was probably someone who got into the apartment and not to worry about it. I mean, they always tell you not to worry about these things, but this is the kind of stuff that you do need to worry about. A few days later, I was expecting a package. I decided to go run some errands while I waited for the package to arrive. Finally got the text message saying that it was delivered to my front door. But when I show up to my front door, the package is not there. I go straight to my Ring camera and I see that the same guy had taken the package. I was furious. I went downstairs and showed the video to the guy in the lobby, and he told me to contact management. Called them, but they didn't answer, so I left an email. Sent them the 2 videos I had, but they took a week to reply back. Meanwhile, this guy continues to come to my apartment, ring the doorbell and leave, and steals most of my deliveries. Luckily, during Christmas, I flew home to be with my parents. I knew I wouldn't be receiving any deliveries, but I still kept watch of my Ring doorbell. At 1 a.m., I got a notification from my Ring doorbell that someone was there. It was the same guy, in the same exact outfit. He pressed his ear up against my door, trying to hear what I was doing. Woke up my parents, showed them the footage, and they were horrified. My dad called the building management, and he finally got through to them. He asked to get footage from the cameras in my hallways, but they told him that the cameras didn't work. Then my dad insisted that they find the guy who was doing this. Management said that they didn't recognize the man in the video. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how my neighbor is stalking me and stealing all my packages but denies it. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. After I caught this guy on my Ring doorbell several times, I sent it to my building management, but they said they didn't recognize him. They told me that he probably didn't live in the building. My parents insisted that they change all the locks on the doors. They said it would be a huge inconvenience for them because it meant a lot of money, that they would have to issue new keys to every tenant in the apartment. That's when my dad told them that he would involve his lawyer, aka my uncle. The building management basically ghosted me and my parents, and eventually I had to go back to my apartment after the holidays. Told my parents I would be fine and that the guy would probably never come back. Boy, was I wrong. 2 days after I arrived back to my apartment, everything looked totally normal. My apartment building had a really nice gym, and that's where I would go work out. While I was on the treadmill, I see someone outside of the gym door, and when I saw who was standing there, I recognized them as the person in the videos. He was wearing a black hoodie and black pants. He wasn't looking straight into the gym, but he was hovering by the door. I literally jumped off the treadmill like a cat. Went straight to the door, but when he saw me, he started running away. I was ready to attack this guy. When I finally opened the door, he was gone. But this really made me angry. It meant that I was being watched at the gym and at my own apartment. It didn't feel safe. I was paying $2,500 a month for my one bedroom, but it didn't feel like a home. I decided not to tell my parents because I knew this would totally freak them out. Went back upstairs to my apartment and got ready for bed. At 11 p.m. I got another notification from my Ring doorbell. This time I could see him pressing his ear up against my door again, but this time I could see part of his face. He had a nose ring and a neck tattoo. I took a screenshot and sent it to my building management. That's when they told me that it could possibly be the person that lived in the second floor. That they couldn't be sure and they couldn't really just show up to someone's apartment and accuse them of something like this. Because I'm so stubborn, I told them that I would handle it myself. The next morning I got dressed and went straight to the second floor. I knocked on every single door on the second floor, and they were pretty much all women. Finally, this guy opens the door and he has a nose ring. I asked him if he'd been by my apartment, but he denied it. He basically acted like he had never seen my face before. He acted so well that I started doubting it was him, even though I could see he had a nose ring. He had a purple hoodie on which covered his neck, so I couldn't tell if he had a tattoo. I apologized and went back upstairs. I decided to go to the gym once again, but as I'm working out again, I see the guy in the black hoodie outside the door. Part 3 is up. 3 of how my neighbor is stalking me, stealing my deliveries, but denies everything. Disclaimers are not my story time, it's me on Instagram. While I was working out at the gym, again I see the same guy in the black hoodie. But this time I wasn't gonna let him get away. I ran to the door and when I opened it, he was halfway gone. That's when I decided to chase him. Instead of running out of the building, he ran up the stairs. I knew exactly where he was going. Here's the problem, he was much faster than me. When I got up to the second floor, he had basically disappeared. I knew that this guy lived on the second floor. I went straight to his door and knocked. Of course, he didn't open. I stood there for a few seconds contemplating what I should do. Suddenly, a few doors down, a door opens. Out comes this really beautiful girl. She starts asking me if I was okay. That's when I broke down. I started to cry and I told her everything. She invited me into her apartment and she gave me a glass of water. Then she confirmed my worst fears. She told me she'd been having problems with one of her neighbors, that most of the girls on her floor were complaining about the same thing. Apparently, I wasn't the first person complaining to management about this one person. She showed me all the emails that she had sent management about this guy. Apparently, he would knock on her door and run away. She told me that some of her packages were also missing and that he would try to find her in the elevators. Then we both walked over to another girl's apartment. This girl proceeded to tell me the exact same things, that he had been stealing her packages, showing up at her door, and watching her. I felt so much better knowing that I wasn't the only one this was happening to, but we knew that we needed to do something. We all showed up at the management's office with all our complaints, but management says that there's no actual proof that this is the guy. They flat out denied to do anything about it. So now all the women in the building are watching out for each other. I want to confront this guy, but I'm not sure what to say. Pretty sure he's reselling all the packages that he steals too. What should we do?
Story time about when I ghosted my boyfriend of 5 years and his friends. I, at 33, was dating a guy at 39 for 5 years. After 3 years or so, we moved in together, but he was away a lot for work. He had a camp job that was 3 weeks in, 1 week home. He and I always liked to play computer games and were in a Discord with his friends. My friends also joined the Discord and everyone got along very well. Over the last year, he started getting a bit distant when he wasn't home, but I would see him online and voice chat with his friends and my friends. If I joined the chat, he would go silent. There were times we would play late at night together on the weekends, but one day he told me that he got in trouble at the camp for being too loud at night. He stopped phoning me and would only message me. Sometimes he wouldn't talk to me for a few days. 3 months ago, he wasn't online, but a few of his friends were. I popped into the chat to say hi, and someone asked where he was to someone else. The friend responded with, "Oh, he's probably with his other half. They usually spend a lot of time together at this time of day. He'll be back later." I went, "Hold the phone. What?" But I'm his girlfriend and we live together when he's not at camp. It got silent and then one of the people said, "I hate to break it to you, but he has never had a camp job. He lives in the city with his girlfriend and travels out once a week." I messaged him saying, "Hey, someone just said you have another girlfriend? What the hell?" He sent me a message saying that they were lying to me and blah blah blah. I ended up clarifying with his friend on who the other woman was. It was a girl that I played with regularly. She was a good friend or so I thought. I also casually mentioned it in voice chat with her one day. "Yeah, we've been together for 6 months, living together for 3. I know it's fast, but he's a great guy." I just laughed and said, "That's great for you." I didn't break up with him. I pretended to believe him. In the meantime, I had been looking at purchasing a house for the last year and was about to close on a deal. Our finances were completely our own and I hadn't told him that I found one that I put an offer in for. After closing the deal, it took a month for me to receive the keys. The day I moved into the house, January 2nd, I put his things in storage, sent him a message on Discord to give him the storage details, moved into my new house, then I left the Discord and went full ghost mode with him and his friends. I also changed my phone number and deleted my Facebook. I told a few select friends about what happened and gave them my new number with instructions not to tell them anything about where I am or my new details. My friends threw me a housewarming party a few days ago. My best friend said that my ex's friend took me looking for me. He's been calling all my friends and saying he's worried about me. She had told him that I knew he was cheating and that I was gone. Apparently he cried. She also went so far as to pop into the Discord with him, his friends, my friends, and the other woman to say, "Hey, did you get your stuff after she broke up with you for cheating on her?" Apparently he's single now and the other woman kicked him out and broke up with him. She also asked my friend to send me her sincerest apologies over everything. She wants my friend to give me her number so that we can talk. I'm not sure if I should, but I love my best friend. She totally had my back. My wife and I are in a poly relationship. I'm 29, she's 28, and her partner is 30. When my wife and I started the poly chapter of our lives, we both agreed that our partners would not be allowed direct involvement with disciplining our son. For example, they would not lay hands on our son. They can put him in timeout or tell him no, take his devices from him or whatever, but they are not to, in this example, backhand him to the floor for saying the F word, which is exactly what happened. I had just walked inside from the back porch and my wife was in the shower getting ready for their date. I don't know what transpired for my son to drop the F-bomb, but he is only 7, so who knows. However, when I heard him say it and then my wife's partner yelled at him to not speak like that, followed by a loud smack and my son crying. I rushed into the living room where my son was on his butt and the partner was standing over him. I asked my wife's partner if he had just struck my son. He said no, that I was just imagining things. I warned him that if I found out he was lying and he had indeed struck my son, that there would be consequences. We have a pretty nice security system in our home, with cameras in almost every room but our bathrooms and the guest room. I went and opened the app and the cameras on my phone and watched what happened. He had indeed hit my son. So, am I the asshole for breaking his nose and kicking him out before their date? My wife's neutral and she understands where I'm coming from, but at the same time, she thinks that I overreacted. And I may have, but that's my fucking son and no one has the right to put their hands on him in a violent manner. I don't even spank him. There are more constructive ways to discipline. I could really use some advice.
Am I the asshole for making my mother apologize to a woman she called fat? Today, I, 17 female, and my mother, 46 female, were going out for a walk. On our way home, we saw an old woman sitting on a bench. She was on the heavier side. My mother whispered to me, "Oh my God, look at that woman." I was confused because she was just minding her own business. She said, "Look at her legs, look at all that fat. I wonder how her knees can support her weight." I asked her to stop because it was rude and also we were close to her, so the poor woman surely could hear everything. However, she didn't stop. She replied rather loudly this time, "I hope when I'm old I won't become this fat." I was horrified, and by the woman's expression, she definitely heard my mother.
Am I wrong for adding my brother to his fiancé? I, 24 male, have a younger brother, 22 male, who's in the closet. I knew he was gay since he was 15 years old, but I never told our parents anything about it because they're pretty homophobic and would probably end up disowning him. However, around 2 years ago, my brother brought this girl home and presented her as his girlfriend. Our parents were pleased with her, but I was confused and later on asked him why he's dating a girl if he's gay. He told me that he's planning to marry a girl for appearances and to have children in order to please our parents. I told him that's a terrible idea and he's just gonna make himself and the girl miserable for the rest of their lives. He then told me he doesn't plan to stay married to her for the rest of his life and just for a while until they have children. After that, he's gonna divorce her and share the custody of kids with her. What the that's I told him that's a very cruel plan and that he shouldn't let his parents' expectations dictate the way he lives his life. But he just ignored me and continued to date this girl. Fast forward to last week when I found out that my brother and his girlfriend got engaged and were planning to get married in next year's spring. I called my brother and told him again how cruel he was for leading on that girl and he should try to put himself in her shoes, but he again didn't listen to me. So I contacted his fiancée and convinced her to meet up with me in order to talk about my brother. I then told her all the truth, that my brother is only marrying her in order to have children and that he's going to divorce her as soon as he has them and he's actually into men. She absolutely lost it and told me that I just came up with lies about my brother in order to break them off because I was secretly in love with her. How can people be like, I wish I had that confidence for some of these people to think that many people are into you. Like, how can you be so cocky? Like, you're so full of yourself. After that, I just let her be and I thought my brother was going to rear me a new one after finding out what I told her. But yesterday, my brother called me in rage and went off on me, telling me how I could out him to his fiancée like that and betray his trust. Apparently, after our talk, his fiancée did some digging on my brother and found out that he's been seeing another man behind her back. She immediately broke the engagement off after that and let my brother know that I was the reason she even suspected him in the first place. My brother told me that he's never going to trust me with anything ever again and then blocked my number. So, am I the asshole here? No, honestly, like, I get family is family, but that poor girl is going to get blindsided later on and it's going to suck and you were just being a good person. I think if you're family or not, you got to do what's right, always.
Stupidest mistake I've ever made was accepting a job offer that a friend hooked me up with where he would be managing me at work. And if you ever get an opportunity to accept a job offer from someone you've rejected sexually, don't. I should have known that. Our boss should have known that. He should have known that. Somebody should have said no. Nobody did. And it wasn't the kind of rejection where he said, "Would you go on a date with me?" And I said, "Oh, I wish I could, but here's a really obvious excuse that we're both going to pretend is true as to why I can't." No, it wasn't that. He met me freshman year of college and said, "I'm in love with you and I'm going to woo you." And he decided what our kids were going to be named. And he would text me Taylor Swift songs, not lyrics, entire songs. And he wasn't some guy that I met at like a bus stop and could easily shake either. What happened was my best friend was marrying his best friend while they fell in love. It was like this years-long Julia Roberts, Hugh Grant romance, and the best friends, me and this other guy, were in the background either flirting or verbally assaulting each other. He sent me letters while I was home visiting my family. The first one had a pressed dead bug in it, and it was a breakup letter, even though we weren't dating. And then the second letter he sent me was saying something to the effect of, "Who are we kidding? We can't fight this. We're in love." And there was loose beef jerky in it. And I knew that he sent it because he always said that when he got married, he wanted his wife to eat a lot of beef jerky so she would taste like it all the time when they kissed. And my parents were like, "Why would this man send you beef jerky?" And I was like, "I don't know. Why do men do anything?" After our two best friends got married, he came over to my apartment and said, "Listen, everybody in the friend group is paired off and married except for us, so it just makes sense that you and I," and I said, immediately no. And he said, "Well, fine, then I'm gonna go cry myself to sleep." And I said, "No, you're gonna go home, eat some cold cereal, and you're gonna feel fine." And he said, "I don't even like cold cereal, so thanks for rubbing that in." And then he left. He reached out 3 months later and said, "Hey, do you want a job?" And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And he said, "You'll have to come in and interview," which was the second time I've been interviewed by someone I knew. And it's weird getting interviewed in your early 20s by someone you went to college with, because it feels like you're in a play pretending to be grown-ups. Like you go in and you say, "I'm here to see Brady," and the middle-aged receptionist said, "Oh, Mr. Johnson, yes, I will alert him of your presence." And then she takes you to see Mr. Johnson, and he's got an office and a tie, and he's behind a desk, and he's like, "What is your biggest weakness?" And I said, "You know the answer to that question better than I do." And he said, "That is true, but you have to answer it, and if you lie to me, I will know." And I was so flustered by that I was like, well, sometimes when people yell at me, I cry. After I got hired, we were hanging out, and I was telling him that I was going to call out the guy that I was dating for lying to me and saying that his phone was off for 3 days, even though he'd seen all of my Instagram stories. And my buddy boss said, "Don't do that. That's crazy. You're being crazy." And I said, "I'm sorry." He aggressively pursued me for 2 months, ghosted, lied about it, and I'm the crazy one. And buddy boss said, "Yeah, you're crazy for noticing him watching your Instagram stories." And I was like, how are you the boss of me? The words coming out of your mouth are stupid.
I the asshole for refusing to apologize to my mother-in-law after she saw me wearing underwear? This happened yesterday morning at 9 in the morning. I, female 33, was in the kitchen eating breakfast wearing my regular underwear. Suddenly, I heard gasping sounds coming towards me. I turned and saw my mother and sister-in-law yelling about what I was wearing. I was in utter shock and just froze in my seat. My husband was asleep at the time, and he must have heard his mom and sister scream because he ran downstairs and asked what's going on. His mom started ranting loudly about what an inappropriate scene she and her daughter saw. I'm still sitting in shock when my husband started yelling at me to go put something on quickly. I went upstairs and his mom called me shameless and inappropriate. I the asshole for refusing to apologize to my mother-in-law after she saw me wearing underwear? Mother-in-law called me shameless and inappropriate, and I heard my husband say it won't happen again. I was so mad I put a coat on and went downstairs and started arguing with my mother-in-law. I told her she shouldn't have come over without notice, but turns out my husband told her to come over at 9 to discuss a family crisis. My mother-in-law said I was in the wrong for walking around half naked, knowing she has a key and might show up any minute. I told her it's my home, and she said it's her son's home too. We argued and my husband told me to knock it off and apologize, but I refused and went back upstairs. Then after his mom and sister left, he called me childish and inappropriate. And that he told his mom I'll apologize, but I'm not. Am I the asshole for taking my sister's house keys after she walked in on me with someone else and told my ex? My sister has my house keys because sometimes she has to use my office for work. Her Wi-Fi is really slow, plus she has 5 kids who bother her nonstop even though brother-in-law is supposed to be taking care of them. Sometimes I leave the house, so that's why I gave her the key, but she lets me know ahead of time if she's coming. So my ex and I are still in the middle of a divorce and we separated 5 months ago and have an 11-year-old son right now. I have full custody, but my sister is very close with my ex. She's against the divorce even though I told her I was never in love with her and everyone pushed me to marry her because she got pregnant. Well, a week ago, me and a girl I've been seeing were getting into it on the couch and my sister showed up, catched us, and left. Am I the asshole for taking my sister's house keys after she walked in on me with someone else and told my ex? Not even an hour later, I'm getting dozens of calls and texts from my ex because my sister went and told her. My sister said that she needed to know so that she could talk to me about not seeing anyone. I'm mad because it's neither her business or my ex's who I sleep with. Now my ex won't leave me alone. She's showing up at my place demanding to know if anyone else is here and just causing so many problems. Of course, this is all my ex's actions, but if my sister hadn't told her anything, this wouldn't be happening. My sister thought she was firmly in the right for telling her so that she knows someone else is trying to steal her husband away. The argument made me so mad that I took her keys away. Am I the asshole for choosing my son's pregnant ex's side over his? My son, 27, recently came back after 9 months from America and found out his girlfriend, 24, is 5 months pregnant. He kicked her out of the apartment due to the fact that the baby isn't his, but unfortunately for his girlfriend, she hasn't had anyone to turn to nor someone to stay with. So I, 46 female, let her live with me for the past 2 weeks and I plan to let her stay till when she can afford a home of her own. I know what she did was wrong, but she's a pregnant woman and that baby is innocent in all this. My son is saying it's either her or him, and I said I pick her because regardless of what she did, she's still a human. She really needs the help, but since then, he hasn't talked to me.